good afternoon, good evening. This is Dr. Soul Brother again with a remedy to help cure your ill. Let me make this brief. At the same time, I want to get straight to the point. If anybody is not familiar with the two people I'm going to reference, um, I would encourage you to look into them. I know I uh, recently spoke about Bob Marley being a writer for Black America and the roles that Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte played um, in our history and culture. Please look into Mike Thelwell, Kwame Michael Thelwell, and Dr. Erna Brodber, both of whom are from Jamaica, and both of them played quite a role um, in our history and culture in America. Mike Thelwell was born 1939 in Jamaica, comes to the United States at age 20 in 1959, and by his own admission, he tells Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! He says, and I quote, I didn't really become black until arriving in the United States. End of quote. Now, what's significant about that is what he's saying. I went from Negro to black being here. And if you look at what helped to shape him, look at what happened with um, him going to Howard University, getting involved in the civil rights movement, being exposed to people like James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, just to name a few. And his activism in the civil rights movement helped to shape him and his outlook. Um, he became friends and comrades with Stokely Carmichael, a classmate of his at Howard University, a fellow Islander who came here from Trinidad as a youngster and finished his growing up here. And so Mike Thurwell played quite a role as being a member of SNCC. He was also um, he participated in Freedom School in 1964, and he was one of the organizers in the Delta in Mississippi. Well, one of the things that should be noted also is that uh, he later got his master's from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and it was there after that he started teaching, and he in '69 or 1970, somewhere thereabout, he was involved in the establishment of the Afro American Studies Department. That's important to know and understand. Interestingly, the same year, Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, leaves America and goes to Guinea because he was steeped in Pan Africanism. And so while Stokely Carmichael was doing that, Michael Thelwell remained here. I want to go to something real quick. While he was in Mississippi, that is, there were some non-Southerners, according to Mike Thelwell, who was telling them that um, the black people in the South are very slow and they've been so degraded and not about activism and all that. And while there, Mike Thurwell discovered the rich culture of Black America. Now, mind you, he's from Jamaica, so he was familiar with the rural communities in Jamaica and then being exposed to the rural community in the South. So he could make parallels between the two, and which is what he did. Fast forward, uh, please watch um, go to the C-SPAN archives, and you'll see during the Q&A conversation between Mike Thelwell and a Caribbean woman who, frankly, was exhibiting some Caribbean chauvinism. And he gave pushback. He did it in a polite, diplomatic way, but he gave pushback to that. This is when he was promoting the book Ready for Revolution, which was Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture's uh, his memoirs. And unfortunately, Kwame Ture passed of uh, prostate cancer in 1998, and as a result, um, Michael Thelwell had to finish his book, The Work, for him, which is what he did. And the book came out 5 years later in 2003. Well, so I would encourage anyone to to see that. The other thing is that I want to talk real quick about Miss Dr. Erna Brodber, who was from is from Jamaica. She's still in the land living. So is Michael Thelwell, but Erna Brodber is from Jamaica. In fact, that's where she still is. And she was born in 1940 in St. Mary, Jamaica, which is a rural uh, part of the island. And she got exposed to Black American music as a teenager in Jamaica back in the 1950s, like people like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers and the Platters, just to name a couple of them. And she describes herself as identifying with the civil rights movement in the 1960s. He cried when Medgar Evers was killed, and when the four young girls were killed in a church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama, incidentally, the same year as Medgar Evers. She's written several books. One of them was called Louisiana. Another one is called Mile. That's Myal. Another book called Nothing's Matte. And that's important to know and understand. The Louisiana book, she deals with the fact that there's a St. Mary in Jamaica, but also a St. Mary um, in Louisiana. So that's important. Her most recent book, and please, everyone, if you can, get your hands on this. Her most recent book, a book she'd been working on for a while, is titled Moments of Cooperation and Incorporation, African American and African Jamaican Connections, 1782 to 1996. Please, y'all get that. That's important. That's real important. Moments of Cooperation and Incorporation, African American and African Jamaican Connections, 1782 to 1996. Um, she feels very strongly about uh, the connection between those of us here and those of us in that region of the world. Um, Erna Brodber considers herself more black than Caribbean, and she refers to all of us as Africans enslaved in the New World. And she feels that she could not write a book and leave out the American experience. She has also given pushback to fellow Caribbean as well as family members of hers who are from the Caribbean who live here in the United States who have chosen to distance themselves from American blacks, something that she feels very strongly about. Again, I would encourage you, I would not only encourage you to read her books, but I would also encourage you to look for any lectures that you can find of her on YouTube and Google. There was a lecture that she gave at Xavier University and HBCU in New Orleans back in, I want to say, 2013, maybe somewhere thereabout. And if you just Google that, you'll find it. But it's very important that our people know and understand that in spite of the crazy talk that you hear out here now, that there are people um, who have been writers. I mean, even one woman, I'll end with this, Nicole Dennis Benn, who's a Jamaican who got exposed to Toni Morrison's book Beloved in high school. This was in the 90s. And she lives in New York, and she came to the U.S. at age 17 to go to Cornell. And by her own admission, similar to um, Mike Thelwell, um, she came into her blackness here and was exposed to Black American young women who were very comfortable in their own skin and all of that. So that's important to know and understand. And I'll say this to you folk out there who are not from here and who have a dim view of Black America, you need to take a page out of the books of Erna Brodber as well as Mike Thurwell. They represent old school. That's not to say that you don't have people who are their contemporaries who are thinking and talking crazy. Yeah, you do. However, um, they are not. They're from a different era, and they're obviously a different cut. So that's important to know and understand. And it's also clear that Mike Thurwell and Erna Brodber are not like Orlando Patterson. But that's a whole nother conversation. Don't get me started on him. But Erna Brodber has stated that a young African American brother told her in 1967 when she was living in Washington State. This is when the riots were taking place. Sister, they don't ask you to talk before they shoot. And that was 1967. So it was clear that we're all in the same gang, so to speak. That's essentially what he was saying. But it's very important that more of our people know who Erna Brodber and Mike Thelwell are, what they're about, what they represent. So I said I just wanted to hop on here real quick and deal with that, and just it's not just Bob Marley being a writer. There are others of that ilk who are writers, and we need to hold on to them for dear life. And those younger ones who are like, who have this false sense of superiority need to get it together. So on that note, take care, and until the next time, God bless.